On my last episode, I spent some time talking about central planning from Hayek, and I had mentioned a not really a poem, but a sort of a story from Milton Friedman and about the pencil, the life of a pencil, and I actually went into the book that I had seen that from, and I actually was wrong. It wasn't Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman in his book Free to Choose, which is amazing. And I may go through a series of podcasts going through that book at some point. I don't know. I may take the next 6 months going through The Road to Serfdom. But I went into that and realized that the poem he was actually referring to is actually somebody else. It's a Leonard Read's poem, and this actually is like a big deal. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to read the poem, and I don't think I'm violating any copyright or any whatever it is. If I am, get this while you can, and I'll take it down. But there's a lot of different videos. Maybe I'll put one of the YouTubes up on the the show notes. And but hey, it's something, and I'm going to get into it in just a minute. That's pretty much going to be the gist of this episode. I don't know how long it's going to take. It's pretty long, but probably about 10 minutes. Anyhow, it really, what I'm trying to do here with these episodes, for the most part, I record these episodes, especially this show, the Rocco DeLeo show, is really for me. I hope people listen to it and they learn something, but what it's doing for me is I'm digging into these books that are kind of complex and kind of challenging to read. And right now I'm finding, at least personally for me, now you may listen to this and go, this podcast sucks. And to me, I'm sorry it sucks, but it's helping me learn this stuff. It's finally explaining this. It's like the watch one, do one, teach one. Explaining this, even if I'm the only one hearing it, it's teaching me. And I'm not trying to sell anything or anything. I enjoy learning this stuff, and I enjoy talking about it. And it saves my wife from having to listen to me talk about this over and over and over again. But as I prepare and as I talk through some of these episodes, sometimes I talk through these episodes and then I hit erase and then talk again, I learn a lot. So I'm really trying to paint the picture of why I think socialism or big government, why it's so bad, and why I have my principles of small government, maybe libertarianism, I don't know. And a lot of this stuff I'm still working out. I'm still working out for myself of what I really believe in. And I think, if anything, if I inspire people, even people who disagree with me, to really understand what they believe and really sort of create their own their own political philosophy or their own manifesto, if you will, based on facts, based on a history, based on some reality. I think that's cool. That's cool, because I think what we're missing nowadays, although I think we're seeing more of it with, I've heard it called the intellectual dark web, but I think we're seeing a lot of people just not wanting to talk about ideas, and they just want to double down on what they think is right or what feels right, regardless of what the truth is, and just shout down at anybody else. And it's just, I just have to give Dave Rubin credit for the term intellectual dark web, by the way. So without further ado, I'm going to read this poem by Leonard Read called I Pencil. And it really, I think more than my whole point of this 4-minute ramble here is this explains to me in very simple terms the complexity involved in something so simple, in something that everybody can understand, and understanding that this happens without a government or a master puppet master. This happens because you have a ton of people who don't even know, may not even understand the final product, but because of their own entrepreneurship, self-preservation, wanting to improve their own lot in life, play a small part in creating a pencil. So I'm going to take a sip of water, and I'm going to read it. I pencil. I am a lead pencil, the ordinary wooden pencil familiar to all boys and girls and adults who can read and write. Writing is both my vocation and my avocation. That's all I do. You may wonder why I should write a genealogy? Well, to begin with, my story is interesting. And next, I am a mystery. Lost my place. More so than a tree or a sunset or even a flash of lightning. But sadly, I am taken for granted by those who use me, as if I were a mere incident and without background. The supercilious attitude relegates me to the level of commonplace. This is a species of the grievous error in which mankind cannot too long persist without peril. For the wise G.K. Chesterton observed, "We are perishing for want of wonder, not for want of wonders." I pencil, simple though I appear to be, merit your wonder and awe. A claim I shall attempt to prove. In fact, if you can understand me, no, that's too much to ask of anyone. If you can become aware of the miraculousness which I symbolize, you can help save the freedom mankind is so unhappily losing. I have a profound lesson to teach, and I could teach this lesson better than can an automobile, or an airplane, or a mechanical dishwasher, because I am seemingly so simple. Simple, yet not a single person on the face of this earth knows how to make me. This sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Especially when it is realized there are about 1.5 billion of my kind produced in the United States each year. Pick me up and look me over. What do you see? Not much meets the eye. There's some wood, lacquer, the printed labeling, graphite, lead, a bit of metal, and an eraser. Just as you cannot trace your family tree back very far, so it is impossible for me to name and explain all my antecedents. But I would like to suggest enough of them to impress upon the richness and complexity of my background. My family tree begins with what in fact is a tree, a cedar of straight grain that grows in Northern California and Oregon. Now contemplate all the saws and trucks and rope and the countless other gear used in harvesting and carting the cedar logs to the railroad siding. Think of all the persons and the numberless skills that went into their fabrication. The mining of ore, the making of steel, and its refinement into saws, axes, motors. The growing of hemp and bringing it through all the stages to heavy and strong ropes. The logging camps with their beds and mess halls. The cookery and the raising of all the foods. Why, untold thousands of persons had a hand in every cup of coffee the loggers drink. The logs are shipped to a mill in San Leandro, California. Can you imagine the individuals who make flat cars and rails and railroad engines and who construct and install the communication systems incidental thereto? These legions are among my antecedents. Consider the millwork in San Leandro. The cedar logs are cut into small, pencil-length slats, less than 1/4 of an inch in thickness. These are kiln-dried and then tinted for the same reason women put rouge on their faces. People prefer that I look pretty, not a pallid white. The slants, that's funny. The slants are waxed and kiln-dried again. How many skills went into the making of tint and the kilns, into supplying the heat, the light and power, the belts, motors, and all other things a mill requires? Sweepers in the mill among my ancestors? Yes. And included are the men who poured the concrete for the dam of a Pacific Gas and Electric Company hydro plant, which supplies the mill's powers. The mill's power, not magical powers. Don't overlook the ancestors, present and distant, who have a hand in transporting 60 carloads of slats across a nation. Once in the pencil factory, $4 million, this is a long time ago, $4 million in machinery and building, all capital accumulated by the thrifty and saving parents of mine. Each slat is given 8 grooves by a complex machine, after which another machine lays lead in every other slat, applies glue, and places another slat atop. A lead sandwich, so to speak. 7 brothers and I are mechanically carved from this wood clinch sandwich. My lead itself contains no lead at all. It's complex. The graphite is mined in Ceylon in Sri Lanka. Consider these miners and those who make their many tools, and the makers of the paper sacks in which the graphite is shipped, and those who make the string that ties the sacks, and those who put them aboard ships, and those who make the ships. Even the lighthouse keepers along the way assisted in my birth, and the harbor pilots. The graphite is mixed with clay from Mississippi, in which ammonium hydroxide is used in the refining process. Then wetting agents are added, such as sulfonated tallow, animal fats chemically reacted with sulfuric acid. After passing through numerous machines, the fixture finally appears as endless extrusions, as if from a sausage grinder, cut to size, dried, and baked for several hours at 1850 degrees Fahrenheit. To increase their strength and smoothness, the leads are then treated with the hot mixture, which includes Candelaria wax from Mexico, paraffin wax, and hydrogenated natural fats. My cedar receives 6 coats of lacquer. Do you know all the ingredients of lacquer? Who would think that the growers of castor beans and the refiners of castor oil are a part of it? They are. Why, even the processes by which the lacquer is made a beautiful yellow involves the skills of more persons than one can enumerate. Observe the labeling. That's a film formed by applying the heat to carbon black mixed with resins. How do you make resin? And what, pray, is carbon black? My bit of metal? The ferrule is brass. Think of all the persons who mine zinc and copper and who have the skills to make shiny sheet brass from these products of nature. I lost my place. Those black rings on my ferrule are black nickel. What is black nickel and how is it applied? The complete story of why the center of my ferrule, I don't know what that is, has no black nickel on it, and it would take pages to explain. Then there's my crowning glory, inelegantly referred in the trade as the plug, the part man uses to erase the errors he makes with me. An ingredient called factice is what does the erasing. It's a rubber-like product made by reacting rapeseed oil from the Dutch East Indies in Indonesia with sulfur chloride. Rubber, contrary to the common notion, is only for the binding purposes. Then too are the numerous vulcanizing and accelerating agents. The pumice comes from Italy, and the pigment which gives the plug its color is cadmium sulfide. No one knows. Does anyone wish to challenge my earlier assertion that no single person on the face of this earth knows how to make me? Actually, millions of human beings have had a hand in my creation, no one of whom even knows more than a very few of the others. Now, you may say that I go too far in relating the picker of a coffee berry in far-off Brazil and food growers elsewhere to my creation, that this is an extreme position. I shall state my claim. There isn't a single person in all these millions, including the president of the pencil company, who contributes more than a tiny, infinitesimal bit of know-how. From the standpoint of know-how, the only difference between the miner of graphite in Ceylon and the logger in Oregon is the type of know-how. Neither the miner nor the logger can be dispensed with, any more than can the chemist at the factory or the worker in the oil field, paraffin being a byproduct of petroleum. Here's an astounding fact. Neither the worker in the oil field, or the chemist, nor the digger of graphite or clay, nor any man who makes the ships or trains or trucks, nor the one who runs the machine that does the knurling on my bit of metal, nor the president of the company performs a singular task because he wants me. Each one wants me less, perhaps, than does a child in the first grade. Indeed, there are some among this vast multitude who never saw a pencil, nor would they know how to use one. Their motivation is other than me. Perhaps it is something like this. Each of these millions sees that he can thus exchange his tiny know-how for the goods and services he needs or wants. I may or may not be among these items. No mastermind. There is a fact still more astounding. The absence of a mastermind, of anyone dictating or forcibly directing these countless actions which bring me into being. No trace of such a person can be found. Instead, find the invisible hand at work. I'm going to read that again. The absence of a mastermind, of anyone dictating or forcibly directing these countless actions, which bring me into the being. It doesn't exist. This is the mystery which I earlier referred. It has been said that only God can make a tree. Why do we agree with this? Isn't it because we realize that we ourselves could not make one? Indeed, can we even describe a tree? We cannot accept in superficial terms. We could say, for instance, that a certain molecular configuration manifests itself as a tree. But what mind is there among men that could even record, let alone direct, the constant changes in the molecules that transpire in the lifespan of a tree? Such a feat is utterly unthinkable. I, pencil, am a complex combination of miracles, a tree, zinc, copper, graphite, and so on. But to these miracles which manifest themselves in nature, an even more extraordinary miracle has been added: the configuration of human creative energies. Millions of tiny know-hows configurating naturally and spontaneously in response to human necessity and desire, and in the absence of any human masterminding. Since only God can make a tree, I insist that only God can make me. Man could do more than direct these millions of know-hows to bring me into being, that he can put molecules together to create a tree. The above is what I mean when writing, if you can become aware of the miraculousness which I symbolize, you can help save the freedom mankind is so unhappily losing. For if one is aware that these know-hows will naturally, yes, automatically arrange themselves into creative and productive patterns in response to human necessity and demand, that is, in the absence of governmental or any other coercive masterminding, then one will possess an absolutely essential ingredient for freedom: a faith in free people. Freedom is impossible without this faith. Once government has a monopoly of creative activity such, for instance, as the delivery of the mails, most individuals will believe that the mails cannot be efficiently delivered by men acting freely. And here is the reason. Each one acknowledges that he himself doesn't know how to do all things incident to mail delivery. He also recognizes that no other individual could do it. These assumptions are correct. No individual possesses enough know-how to perform a nation's mail delivery any more than any individual possesses enough know-how to make a pencil. It took me away for a second. Pop up. Where are we? Now, in the absence of faith in free people, in the unawareness that millions of tiny know-hows could naturally and miraculously form and cooperate to satisfy this necessity, the individual cannot help but reach the erroneous conclusion that mail can be delivered only by governmental masterminding. If I, pencil, were the only item that could offer testimony of what men and women can accomplish when... Where we go here. However, this testimony... I'm sorry, I lost my place. When men and women can accomplish when free to try, then those with little faith would have a fair case. However, there is testimony galore. It's all about us, and on every hand. Mail delivery is exceedingly simple when compared, for instance, to the making of an automobile, or a calculating machine. Oh, that's old. Or a grain combine or milling machine, or tens of thousands of other things. Delivery? Why, in this area where men have been left free to try, they deliver the human voice around the world in less than 1 second. They deliver an event visually and in motion to any person's home when it's happening. They deliver 150 passengers from Seattle to Baltimore in less than 4 hours. They deliver gas from Texas to one's range or furnace in New York at unbelievably low rates and without subsidy. They deliver each 4 pounds of oil from the Persian Gulf to our eastern seaboard, halfway around the world for less money than the government charges for delivering a 1-ounce letter across the street. The lesson I have to teach is this: leave all creative energies uninhibited. Merely organize society to act in harmony with this lesson. Let society's legal apparatus remove all obstacles the best it can. Permit these creative know-hows to freely flow. Have faith that free men and women will respond to the invisible hand. This faith will be confirmed. I, pencil, seemingly simple though I am, offer the miracle of my creation as testimony that this is a practical faith, as practical as the sun, the rain, a cedar tree, the good earth. So, friends, I'm not going to comment too much longer on this because I want this to speak for itself. Whether you agree with me or not, or you like how I read it or not, this is something that I think our high school kids should be reading. Just the perspective it gives. It's this is old. I think this was written in the 50s, but it makes a case. It's interesting of how many people are involved. I'm racking my brain over and over on how to explain this to myself about government interference and how things magically appear. This really does a great job of illustrating in a little different way than Russ Roberts did with the one. Oh, geez, it was something loaf. It's a wonderful loaf. I had in one of my episodes. I believe that's the freedom one a couple episodes ago. Anyhow, there was a YouTube on that too on emergent order and all this stuff. It's pretty much the same stuff about emergent order. How all these people seemingly magically come together to make things without a puppet master, without a central planner. And the argument, I think, would come from the other side is, well, that's fine and dandy, but we could do it better with a master planner. And I've got some arguments in some upcoming episodes. I think that maybe can go towards that, but this does a great job of it already, and I've talked about it in some previous episodes. With that, I'm going to say thanks for listening, and have a great day. Bye-bye.